As she prepared for childbirth, the doctor revealed a hidden legacy that changed everything. Emma sat nervously in the cramped waiting room of the local hospital, the smell of antiseptic mingling with the faint aroma of freshly laundered scrubs. Her heart raced with each tick of the clock as she felt the flutter of her baby inside her. This was it, the day she'd unveil her future, a future she hoped would be brighter than her own past. Emma was a single mother-to-be at just 29, and every sacrifice she made as a waitress at the local diner was for this child. She couldn't help but remember her own mother's unyielding love and resilience, words of encouragement echoing like a melody in her mind. Then came the moment that shifted everything. Dr. Thompson entered, his warm smile reflecting an unexpected familiarity, grounded in shared history. "Emma, it's good to see you," he said, his voice filled with genuine warmth. A wave of comfort washed over her, reminding her of the stories her mother had shared about him, stories of kindness during hard times. But as they spoke, he unexpectedly dropped something heavy. "There is something about your grandmother, something I believe you need to know." Emma's breath caught in her throat. Memories of her grandmother, a woman of fierce integrity, flashed through her mind. "What do you mean?" she managed to whisper. Dr. Thompson leaned in closer, eyes serious and intent. "Your grandmother fought tirelessly for our community's rights long before it became trending. Her legacy isn't just in the past, it's a path you can follow, one filled with courage and determination." Tears threatened to spill as the weight of it all hit her. Could her grandmother's strength be part of her own? She'd always felt that haunting shadow of her estranged father looming over her life. But now, a flicker of light pierced through the darkness. Could she forge a new identity rooted in resilience, not tainted by her father's failures? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Emma's heart swelled with conflicting emotions, dreams fluttering in her chest. What if she could honor her grandmother's legacy? As Dr. Thompson continued to speak, Emma felt the stirrings of a movement within her, a fire ignited by the courage of the women before her. But then the thought of her father pulled her back, a man she didn't know if she could ever forgive. The family bond felt like an anchor dragging her under. Could reaching out to him heal the wounds of abandonment or simply rip her apart? As she prepared for her baby's arrival, words of her neighbors surfaced, stories of her grandmother's bravery, surging like waves of support. Yet, the question lingered in the air, heavy and daunting: could she truly chase this legacy? Would she find the strength to meet her father and confront the ghosts of the past? With her due date rapidly approaching, Emma was caught standing on the edge of both possibility and fear, questioning if she could embody the courage and hope her grandmother cherished. In this pivotal moment, as the world around her buzzed with life and laughter, she stood frozen, facing two paths, and both were unknown. The lights in the hospital hummed softly above Emma as she attempted to anchor herself in the present. She focused on the rhythm of her baby's movements, each shift and flutter reminding her that this was no longer just about her. She was responsible for shaping a new life. A mixture of excitement and dread coursed through her veins. Would this baby carry the legacy of bravery that Dr. Thompson described? Or would they inherit the shame of her father's absence? Moments felt like hours, and just when she thought the anxiousness might swallow her whole, a nurse poked her head into the waiting area. "Emma, it's time." The word seemed to shake loose her thoughts, sending them scattering like autumn leaves. She stood abruptly, her legs shaky with a mix of fear and eagerness. As she was led through the sterile corridors, she felt a strange sense of strength growing within her. She glanced at the walls adorned with photographs, families smiling, babies cradled in the arms of proud parents. In that moment, she could envision her own family photograph, herself, her baby, and perhaps someday a figure who embodied the strength she longed for. The delivery room was bright and overwhelming. Doctors and nurses moved with precision, their voices blending into a comforting buzz. Yet, despite the chaos, Emma focused on the heartbeat sound that monitored her child, a constant reminder of the life force fighting to enter the world. "Okay, Emma, we're ready. You can do this," the doctor instructed, his tone steady and encouraging. She nodded, trying to absorb his confidence, but nerves knotted in her stomach. With each contraction, memories of her grandmother flooded her mind, stories of protests and advocacy, of standing up for what was right. Emma squeezed her eyes shut, imagining her grandmother at her side, whispering words of strength into her ear. "You are not alone," she imagined her saying. "You will pull through." But just like that, the memory turned gray. Emma's father loomed in her thoughts, a dark figure through the years. Why did he have to leave? Why didn't he want to be part of her life? The questions twisted in her heart as the pain intensified. With every wave, she pushed against the legacy she wished to sever. "Breathe, Emma. You've got this." The nurse's encouraging voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. Emma opened her eyes, blinking away the tears that pooled there. She visualized her baby, felt the connection deepen, and suddenly the chaos around her faded. She focused, drawing on the stories of her grandmother, the resilience, the fight against the odds. With each push, it was as if she were tearing away at her own past. It hurt, yes, but this was necessary. She was giving birth not just to a child but to a future of hope and possibility that would carry her grandmother's spirit, and then, in a moment that seemed to stretch for eternity, everything changed. The room filled with cries. A new life had entered the world. Emma's heart swelled as she met her child for the first time, small and perfect. That sweet, innocent face looked up at her, and she felt an overwhelming surge of love crash over her like a tidal wave, but amidst the joy, the realization sank in. The world had changed, yet her journey felt only just begun. Could she truly welcome her father's shadow into this newfound light? As she cradled her baby close, Emma's resolve solidified. Perhaps it was time to confront her past, time to reach out to her father. Could she find the courage to create not just a life for her child, but a bridge to heal the wounds of her family? With the weight of the future resting in her arms, she couldn't ignore the quiet whisper nudging her heart. This was only the beginning. The quiet cooing of her newborn filled the room, an uncharted melody soaring through Emma's heart. She gazed down, absorbing the softness, the promise held in her baby's tiny fingers. Every heartbeat echoed with a longing she had carried for so long, a longing not just for this child, but for reconciliation, for a sense of wholeness that had eluded her for years. The nurses bustled around, tending to the baby, checking vitals, making sure both mother and child were healthy. In those moments, Emma felt as though she were witnessing a beautiful play unfold, a scene where the past and future entwined, and she stood center stage for the first time. The weight of motherhood enveloped her, warm yet daunting. "Would you like to hold her?" one of the nurses asked gently. Emma hadn't even noticed the baby had been cleaned and swaddled until now. She nodded, her heart racing as the little bundle was placed in her arms. The infant's soft skin felt like silk against her own, and Emma couldn't help but smile, the corners of her mouth lifting in unison with her heart. "Hello, little one," she whispered, her voice breaking slightly as she fought back tears, but then, amid the warmth of the moment, a chill darted through her thoughts. Would her father ever see this child? The thought lingered, heavy in her chest, a wound that had yet to heal. And what if reaching out meant reopening that wound? Would it hurt, or would it finally set her free? A gentle knock on the door interrupted her reverie. In walked Dr. Thompson, clipboard in hand, the calm presence of the room shifting slightly with his arrival. "Emma," he said, his expression serious yet kind. "Can we talk for a moment?" She nodded, and the nurse gently took the baby from her arms, promising to return shortly. As Emma watched the nurse walk away, Dr. Thompson motioned for her to sit up. "I have something important to discuss." Her heart raced anew. Is something wrong? Is the baby okay? Panic began clawing at her. "Your baby is perfect, I assure you," he said, but his tone grew solemn. There's a history within your family that you may not be aware of, a story that crosses generations and connects to who you are today. Emma's breath caught. What do you mean? Your grandmother's bravery, her passion for fighting against injustice, has created a legacy that is not only hers but now yours, he began, eyes steady on hers. When she was a young woman, she faced challenges that few could imagine. Her connections through advocacy went beyond the typical paths. The desire to create a better world, to inspire change, those qualities are woven into your being. What does this have to do with my baby? Emma asked, confusion rising like a tide. A small smile touched Dr. Thompson's lips. You contain that same spirit, you know. And I believe that spirit is something to pass on. It may also relate to your father's choices, his reasons for leaving. Perhaps it's time to understand the other side of that story. Emma swallowed hard. This was not what she expected. Questions spiraled in her mind like a whirlwind. Could her father's absence be tied to the very bravery Dr. Thompson described? Could there be a hidden connection just waiting to be uncovered? Think about this, Emma, he added. In the empowering rush of motherhood, you hold the ability to shape not just your child's future but also to unearth truths your family has buried for too long. It could change everything. As he stood to leave, Emma felt a wave of uncertainty crash over her. Should she reach for her past? Could she allow the shadows of her family to step into the light alongside her child? The stakes had never felt higher. Meanwhile, the gentle coos of her baby wafted back into the room, a soft anchor reminding her that choices lay ahead. With the echoes of Dr. Thompson's words still reverberating in her mind, Emma found herself at a crossroad. Would she gather the strength to uncover the truths hidden so long? Her heart whispered a fervent hope. What if the answers could bring healing, not just for her, but for generations to come? As she looked down at her baby, a new flame ignited within her. This was only the beginning of their journey. How would she navigate the uncharted waters of family legacy? And what truths awaited her discovery? The soft coos of her newborn became a soothing backdrop as Emma sat up straighter, her heart pounding with questions. Dr. Thompson's words echoed in her mind, wrapping around her like a warm blanket, yet striking a chord of anxiety. A legacy? Her grandmother's bravery? It felt overwhelming, like standing at the edge of a vast ocean, unsure of what lay beneath the surface. Emma squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, trying to gain control of her racing thoughts. What had her grandmother done? How could it possibly relate to her father? And most importantly, how did this legacy affect the tiny being resting so peacefully in her arms? When the nurse returned with the baby, Emma felt a rush of warmth. She cradled her daughter tightly, feeling the calming rhythm of her breath against her chest. "Oh, sweet girl," she whispered, "I want to be strong for you, but sometimes, I feel like I'm just not enough." The baby blinked up at her, oblivious to the weight of the world on her mother's shoulders. Emma couldn't help but smile at the innocence wrapped in that little body. Yet, lingering doubts gnawed at her. If she was going to be the mother this child deserved, she needed to confront the shadows of her past. "Maybe it's time, Emma," she murmured to herself. "It's time to face him." The thought of reaching out to her father filled her with equal parts fear and determination. Could she muster the courage to connect with someone who had been absent for so long? Memories of shouting matches, tears, and the final day he walked out slammed into her like waves crashing against the shore. She took a deep breath and steadied herself. The answer might not come easy, but she had to find out more. Dr. Thompson had lit a spark in her, igniting a sense of purpose that felt new. "I need to learn about my grandmother," Emma resolved. "And whatever it takes, I'll make sure my daughter knows her roots." But there was still a nagging question: where to begin? Her grandmother had passed away years ago, and the few stories she had from her mother always felt incomplete. Maybe her mother knew more. The thought made her heart race. Would her mom be willing to discuss the past? Their relationship had been strained over the years, filled with misunderstandings and unspoken words. Feeling emboldened, Emma decided she would reach out to her mother. "I'll call her," she whispered, determination filling her voice. "I'll ask her everything." The baby let out a soft yawn, as if sensing her mother's resolve. She picked up her phone, her fingers trembling slightly as she navigated to her contacts. A flood of memories surged as she glanced at her mother's number. Love, pain, regret all mingled together, each feeling competing for her attention. The ringing in her ears rose as she pressed the call button. Each tone felt like a countdown to the moment of truth. But what if her mother was not ready to share? What if Emma opened the floodgates, and instead of healing, it brought more pain? Before she could overthink it, a voice answered on the other end. "Hello." Her mom's voice, warm yet cautious, sent a shiver down Emma's spine. "Mom, it's me." The words spilled out, raw and unfiltered. "Emma? Is everything okay?" The sincerity in her mother's voice pulled at Emma's heart. Could this be the moment everything changed? "I need to talk to you, about Grandma and Dad." There was a pause on the other end, thick with suspense. Emma's heart raced. This was the opening she had hoped for. But would the truth she sought set her free or bind her tighter in the ties of family history? "Okay," her mother finally replied, "let us talk." With uncertainty swirling inside her, Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of generations resting on her shoulders. She had no idea what revelations awaited her, but she was ready to dive into the depths. As they continued their conversation, each word felt like a ripple in the water, a small push into uncharted territory. Emma could already sense that her future, along with her daughter's, would never be the same. But little did she know, the answers she sought might lead her down a path filled with more questions than resolutions. Would the ghosts of her family's past haunt her, or would she uncover the strength needed to break free? Emma couldn't wait to find out. Emma's heart thudded in her chest as she braced herself for the conversation. The baby, nestled snugly in her arms, seemed to sense her nerves. Every little coo felt like a reminder of the innocence she needed to protect. "Stay strong, Emma," she whispered again, her voice barely rising above the hum of the hospital. "About Grandma and Dad," Emma finally said, trying to keep her voice steady. "What did you mean when you said there were things I should know?" There was another lengthy silence before her mother spoke. "It's complicated." "Complicated?" "Mom, I need you to be straight with me. If I'm going to navigate this legacy, whatever it is, I can't do it piecemeal." The determination in her voice surprised even her. This wasn't just about herself anymore. "Okay," her mom sighed, her voice cracking slightly. "You deserve the truth." Emma felt a surge of hope as she heard her mother's resolve. "You know how we never talked much about your grandmother beyond the usual stories?" Emma nodded, recalling those brief snippets of a woman she adored from afar, a woman whose strength felt woven into the fabric of her own existence. "Well, Grandma had a life and decisions that shaped our family in ways I never fully understood. She was remarkable, but she also had secrets. Secrets that changed everything. Secrets." The word hovered like a dark cloud. Emma's stomach churned. "Like what?" "I always thought it was better not to burden you with the past." "But with your daughter now I need to know," Emma interrupted. "What did she do?" "The legacy isn't just hers, Emma. It's ours. It led your father to make the choices he did. Some hard choices that changed his life and ours." Each word felt like a ripple expanding outward, pushing Emma into deeper waters. The frustration bubbled inside her like a pot about to boil over. "What do you mean by hard choices?" "He left. He walked out on us. He was running from the past, from his own fears," her mother said, her voice trembling. "He thought he could escape it, but it's always been there, following us." Emma felt her heart drop. The image of her father, his back turned, disappearing into the unknown, flashed in her mind. All those years, she thought he just didn't want to be a part of their lives. Was all this because of Grandma? Partly. She had this fire in her, and, yes, it scared a lot of people. Including your father. There was a catch in her mother's voice, as if she was fighting tears. Emma could hardly breathe. "Mom, I need you to tell me everything," she insisted, squeezing her daughter closer as if to shield her from this turbulent storm. There was a silence, then her mother continued slowly. "Your grandmother, she fought battles both inside and outside the family. There were things she was involved in that weren't just family feuds. They were part of a bigger picture, and your father didn't know how to face that." Emma's head spun, wrapping around the idea of her grandmother as a warrior of sorts, a woman entangled in something deeper than family drama. But what did it have to do with Dad? It haunted him, a legacy of strength that he felt he couldn't live up to. It made him afraid. Afraid of the weight of those expectations and his own failures. Taking a deep breath, Emma allowed her mother's words to sink in. Each detail felt like a piece of a puzzle that was too complex, too raw to fully comprehend. Yet, as painful as it was, a glimmer of understanding sparked in her heart. Maybe her father wasn't the villain in her tale, but a man wrestling with shadows of the past. "That's why we need to break this cycle," Emma said, her voice widening with conviction. "Whatever this legacy is, I want to let it define my daughter's life like it defined ours." There was pride in her mother's next words, even tinged with regret. "Yes, we have a chance to change the narrative. You can do that, Emma." A small smile broke through the tension. She had someone willing to help her navigate the wild seas of their family's history. But that didn't erase the daunting task ahead. "I'll need to know everything about Grandma. How do I even begin?" "Let's start with her journals there in the attic," her mother said, her voice clearer now. "I've kept them hidden, but maybe they hold the key to understanding and healing. They're not easy to read, but they're the truth." Emma's heart raced at the thought of unearthing family secrets. "I want them. I want to learn our story." "Prepare yourself. It may not be what you expect," her mother cautioned, but there was hope in her tone. "Mom, please. I'm ready to dive in." As they ended the call, Emma clutched her baby tighter, the weight of the conversation bringing both dread and exhilaration. What would she find in her grandmother's journals? Would the truth bring her closer to the heart of her family or pull them further apart? Emma took a deep breath. This was merely the beginning. As she stared out of the hospital window, an unexpected resolve welled within her. The journey to understand her family's legacy had just started, and she was prepared for whatever it might reveal. But would she have the strength to face the truths waiting for her? Emma stood in the quiet of the attic, dust motes dancing in the thin beams of light that filtered through the small window. Her heart raced, anticipation mingling with the smell of aged paper and forgotten memories. The timid coos of her baby from below echoed in her mind, grounding her as she reached for the weathered wooden box tucked away in the corner. With a soft thud, she set it down on the floor and pulled off the lid. The journals lay inside, their bindings cracked and covers faded, a testament to years of untold stories. Emma's fingers trembled as she picked up the first one, feeling the weight of it in her hands. What had her grandmother written? Were these mere words, or were they fragments of a life woven into the very fabric of their family's existence? She opened it, and the faint scent of ink hit her nostrils. Scrawls filled the yellowed pages, her grandmother's looping handwriting flowing like a river of thoughts. As Emma began to read, the world around her faded. June 14, 1972, I feel the pressure mounting. They don't understand my fight. They think strength means silence. They are wrong. Each line pulled her deeper, revealing a woman who battled more than the ordinary struggles of family life. Emma's heart clenched with each word, every entry pulling back the curtain on the life of a woman she admired but hardly knew. The next entry told of an argument with her grandfather, his disapproval of her outspoken nature, her refusal to just be a passive participant in her own story. Love does not always come with understanding, it read, another slice of the complicated family tapestry. Emma felt a rush of recognition. She, too, wrestled with the expectations of being a mother and daughter. How much was she holding back out of fear? What would her grandmother have done? The connection to this fierce woman started to ignite a fire within her. As pages blurred into one another, the entries began to touch on something darker. I know the price of my defiance. They want me to be quiet, to fit neatly into the mold, but I will not be silenced. The legacy I inherit is one of courage, and I will not let it die in me. Tears pricked Emma's eyes. The strength resonating from those words was palpable, pushing her boundaries further. This is the legacy I want for my daughter, she whispered, determination shining through her vulnerability. This is who I want to be. The attic creaked, a soft wind stirring, as if urging her to keep reading. The revelation that her grandmother had faced unspoken battles against societal norms struck her with profound understanding. Emma realized then that her journey wasn't just about uncovering the past, it was about redefining her future and that of her daughter. The last entry Emma read was dated just months before her grandmother passed. I fear for them and their futures. I hope they find the strength to voice their truth. I hope they see the beauty in their scars. My love will guide them, even from shadows. Overwhelmed, Emma closed the journal, pressing it to her chest. This was not just information, this was a call to action, a push to break free from fear and inadequacy. She could forge a new path and instill a legacy of bravery in her daughter. With each heartbeat, the weight of responsibility shifted into a powerful resolve. She wouldn't let her grandmother's courage become a story trapped in pages. Emma stood, the journal stacked carefully around her, and felt a stirring in her bones. She was ready to embrace the echoes of the past, ready to confront the ghosts that lingered in her family's legacy, but as she turned to leave the attic, something caught her eye on the floor. A black and white photograph slipped from a loose page of the journal, fluttering beside her. She bent down to pick it up, a sense of trepidation uncoiling in her chest. It was a picture of her grandmother standing with 4 other individuals, faces drawn and tense. Who were they? What did they mean to her grandmother? A wave of uncertainty washed over her. Questions piled up. What secrets lay beneath those composed smiles? Emma clutched the photo tightly, the next chapter of this journey just beginning to unfold. Would she have the courage to confront the truths hidden in this image, as she had with the journals? The air felt thick with anticipation as she descended the attic stairs, her heart pounding with possibilities. It was becoming clear, the deeper she delved, the more she realized that understanding her grandmother could lead her to discover parts of herself she never knew existed. She needed answers, and she felt a familiar fire igniting within her again. What legacy awaited her in the faces of those strangers? Emma stepped carefully down the attic stairs, the photograph still clutched in her hand. The faces of the strangers stared back at her, their expressions a mix of anguish and resolve. She felt like a detective unraveling a mystery. Who were they? How did they figure into her grandmother's story? As she reached the bottom step, her baby's soft coos brought her back to the present. But her heart was still racing. She couldn't let go of the emotions surging inside her. Setting the photo down for a moment, she found her baby in the nursery, tiny fingers reaching up, eyes wide and full of wonder. Hey there, little one, Emma whispered, scooping her up into her arms. She looked at her daughter's innocent face, so unaware of the complexities of life. That's when the realization struck. Like her grandmother, Emma wanted more for her child, to teach her strength rather than silence. This journey was no longer just about her grandmother, it was about the path she'd carved for her daughter, but those faces in the photograph haunted her. They were a puzzle, and Emma itched to put the pieces together. She needed to know what her grandmother had faced, what struggles had shaped the fiery woman she admired. After settling the baby back in her crib, Emma hurried back to the attic, her mind racing with questions. She flicked on the lamp and spread the journal entries across the floor, searching for anything that could hint at the identities in the photo. As she thumbed through the pages, she came across a passage that made her heart skip. It described a night her grandmother had spent at a protest, surrounded by like-minded souls advocating for change. Names of individuals were scrawled in the margins, names Emma recognized faintly from family stories, but the connections were still faint like echoes in the distance. Jane, Marcus, Theo, she murmured, the names rolling off her tongue like secrets. Who were they to her grandmother? She felt energized. Perhaps they were the key to unlocking this mystery. Emma reached for her phone and began to research, fingers flying over the screen, hunting for any scraps of information. Each search brought only more questions. Why did her grandmother attend that protest? What battles had those names fought? Night fell around her, shadows creeping deeper into the corners of the attic. The more Emma uncovered, the stronger the sense of urgency became. She had to dig deeper. And yet, with each discovery, she felt an unease bloom. What if these revelations were heavier than she could handle? What if they led her to truths she wasn't ready to confront? She closed the journal, her eyebrows knitting together in frustration. She couldn't be afraid, that was not an option. Her grandmother's strength threaded through the pages of those journals, urging her on, filling her with resolve. Suddenly, the photograph slipped from her fingers and fluttered to the floor, causing Emma's heart to leap. She bent down to retrieve it, and as she did, she noticed something on the back, words written in her grandmother's unmistakable script. Look for the fire within, it leads you to truth. Emma felt a chill race down her spine, a mix of fear and exhilaration. The fire, yes. It was there, sparking with each revelation, igniting a sense of purpose. But what did it mean for her family? For her daughter? The questions consumed her, and as she stared at the photo, one truth began to take shape. This journey might open not just her grandmother's past but unleash secrets that could change their future. With renewed determination, Emma tucked the photograph carefully in the journal and resolved that she would find those named in the margins. They were her only connection to the truths she needed, but as she turned off the attic light, something flickered through her mind. What if confronting her grandmother's past meant facing shadows she wasn't ready for? As she descended the stairs, uncertainty weighed on her shoulders. Would she find the strength to face whatever was ahead, or would it all prove too much to bear? The echoes of the past intertwined with the future, leaving her with a lingering question: were some legacies meant to be confronted, or were they better left undisturbed? Emma stood at the foot of the stairs, the chill of the attic's revelations lingering in her mind. She glanced over her shoulder, heart racing, as if the shadows still held secrets waiting to spill into her life. With her baby sleeping soundly just down the hall, there was a strange comfort in the contrast of innocence and the storm brewing within her. After a deep breath, she shook off the haunting thoughts and focused on her daughter. The nursery was filled with soft colors and the gentle hum of a nightlight. Emma approached the crib, feeling the urge to protect and shield her child from any pain. But was ignorance truly protection? The phrase her grandmother had written echoed back. Look for the fire within, it leads you to truth. That fire, she thought, needed to be lit, not just for herself, but to guide her daughter. Emma felt a flicker of determination growing amidst the uncertainty. The next morning, fueled by coffee and clarity, Emma began her search. She wrote down the names: Jane, Marcus, Theo. They were no longer distant echoes, they were her mission. Grabbing her laptop, she sat at the kitchen table, tapping into the wealth of resources at her fingertips. The quiet of the house felt electric as she pored over articles, local archives, and community forums. Each click unearthed hints, piecemeal histories of protests, demonstrations, and voices that had once roared for change. Emma's heart raced with each discovery. Jane had been a fierce advocate for women's rights, Marcus a renowned speaker fighting for civil liberties, and Theo a passionate artist who used his canvases to challenge the status quo. Hours faded into the background as she lost herself in their stories, but as the sun finally set, fatigue began to creep in. She leaned back in her chair, staring at their faces on the screen, a newfound kinship sparking in her heart. They were more than names, they were warriors of their time, and each had a connection to her grandmother. Suddenly, it hit her: she didn't have to unearth only the past but also to connect with these people. Perhaps they were still alive, still fighting, still burning with that same fire her grandmother had drawn strength from. She made a list of contact numbers from social media platforms, emails, and any leads she could find. That evening, just before bed, she turned to her daughter, snuggled comfortably in her crib. "You'll learn about courage and resilience," Emma said softly, brushing a finger against the baby's cheek. "No matter the cost, we will find our truth." Just as she turned off the nightlight, her phone buzzed. It was a response to one of her outreach messages, a simple yet powerful sentiment: "I remember your grandmother well. She was a guiding light for us all." Emma's heart thudded loudly in her chest. She felt something shift within, a sense of validation for her quest. This was just the beginning. Before she could even process the weight of that message, another one came through, and as she read it, her breath caught. The sender claimed they had something extraordinary: a photo from that protest night, something that could shine a light on her grandmother's legacy and her own. The thrill rushed through her like wildfire, mingled with an urgency to discover more. Emma always knew she was on the brink of something profound, but now it was here, reaching out to her, and in that haunting question was hope. What if uncovering her grandmother's truth wasn't just about the past, but something that could redefine their future? As she typed a response, adrenaline coursing through her veins, she felt the world shift under her feet. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that each revelation would lead to deeper connections, and perhaps even to a truth she hadn't anticipated, a hidden legacy that could change everything. With her resolve hardening like iron, she hit send, unaware that she was just beginning a journey where every step would challenge her very essence. Would she be able to handle the truth, or would it uncover shadows she wished to keep buried? Emma's phone vibrated on the table, jolting her from her thoughts as she waited for a reply. It was late, but the excitement buzzing in her veins kept her wide awake. She knew she should rest, but how could she close her eyes with the prospect of new discoveries waiting just a click away? She leaned back in her chair, her heart pounding in anticipation. Glancing at the baby monitor, she saw her daughter sleeping peacefully, oblivious to the whirlwind outside her nursery walls. That calm, innocent face reminded Emma of everything at stake: the history she wanted to uncover and the truth that could shape her daughter's future. Her phone buzzed again, pulling her back. A new message flashed across the screen: "I have a photo from that night. It's powerful. Can we meet?" Emma's pulse quickened. A meeting? It felt so real, so exhilarating. She typed back quickly, trying to hide her nervousness. "Yes. Where and when?" As she waited for a response, thoughts raced through her mind. What could this photo reveal? What was her grandmother's part in that night? The words "guiding light" echoed in her thoughts, and she yearned to understand what that truly meant. The reply came swiftly. "Tomorrow afternoon, downtown. There's a coffee shop near the old library. Can we meet at 2? Emma nodded to herself, already making plans in her mind. The next day would be filled with possibilities, a bridge to her grandmother's past. She set her alarm, knowing that sleep was vital, yet her mind carried her away with visions of the meeting. When dawn broke, the sun streamed through the curtains, illuminating the nursery. Emma moved methodically through the morning routine, each moment punctuated with a mix of excitement and anxiety. She dressed as if preparing for a special occasion, choosing a simple yet confident outfit. With the clock ticking, she made her way to the coffee shop, her heart thundering with each step. The streets were a blur as she focused inward, rehearsing potential questions, wondering how this conversation would unfold. Would this stranger hold the key to revealing the hidden chapters of her grandmother's life? Arriving at the cafe, she spotted the sender, a woman in her 60s, with silver hair cascading around her shoulders. As they met, the warmth of their introduction felt electric. Emma introduced herself, words tumbling out in a rush. "Thank you for meeting me. I'm eager to hear everything about my grandmother." The woman smiled softly. She was an amazing woman. She stood tall when others faltered. I remember the fire in her eyes. Emma felt a flutter in her heart. She could feel the weight of truth and the lurking shadows of the past yearning to be revealed. They settled into a warm corner of the cafe, surrounded by the mingling aroma of coffee and pastries. As the woman began to share stories, Emma realized that each tale was a thread weaving a tapestry of resistance, bravery, and community a vivid picture of the strength that had shaped the world around her grandmother. Every revelation brought a mix of awe and reverence, deepening Emma's understanding of her legacy. Then, with a quiver of excitement, the woman pulled out an old envelope. "This," she said, voice lowering, "is the photo we discussed." With trembling fingers, Emma took the photograph. The moment she saw it, a group of protesters, her grandmother at the front line, face fierce and filled with determination, it took her breath away. Her grandmother's grasp on that banner, the fierce joy radiating from her face shone like a beacon of hope. As she absorbed the image, her mind began to race. If her grandmother had fought so valiantly, what would she have to do to keep that fire alive? But suddenly, the woman leaned in closer, a more serious note in her voice. "There is something else I need to tell you, something you want to ignore." Emma's heart began to race again. What else could there be? As the weight of her response settled in the air, she could sense the looming shadows threatening to unravel everything she had learned. "Is it about my grandmother?" Emma breathed, panic rising within like a wave. The woman nodded, her expression grave. "Yes, and it's crucial you understand." As those words sank in, Emma knew she was stepping deeper into a reality that would challenge everything she believed. What more lay hidden in her grandmother's legacy? Would it lead her closer to the truth or tear apart the fabric of her understanding of family? Emma's heart raced as she sat across from the enigmatic woman, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee swirling around them, both comforting and unnerving. The woman took a deep breath, her hands clasped around her mug, as if gathering the strength to share what loomed in the shadows of their conversation. "Your grandmother was involved in more than just protests, Emma. She was part of an underground network that fought against oppressive systems," the woman finally revealed, her voice steady yet laced with urgency. "She helped countless individuals find their voice, giving them refuge when they needed it the most. But such actions always come with consequences." Consequences. The word hung heavy in the air. Emma's mind raced with questions. What had her grandmother endured? What risks had she taken? And what did this mean for her and her daughter? The woman continued, "There were threats to her safety. They had more reach than anyone realized at the time. Your family, it wasn't just a tale of abandonment, it's a legacy of fear. Your father, he left because he was terrified of what could happen to you both." At that moment, a chill crawled up Emma's spine. The pieces of her family's puzzle began to shift, morphing her understanding in ways she hadn't expected. Emma took a moment, grappling with the revelations swirling around her. What happened to her? Did it lead to her passing? She stammered, the gravity of the situation pulling at her chest. The woman leaned in closer, her eyes filled with compassion. "It was a combination of things. Health issues that went untreated due to constant stress from living in hiding. People too often forget that activists fall victim not just to violence but also to the burden of secrecy." Tears welled in Emma's eyes. She had idolized her grandmother but had never considered the price of that bravery. "But your grandmother's story doesn't end with sorrow," the woman added, her voice lifting the weight momentarily. "She left a legacy, a fire, as you read in her journals. That fire burns in you now, Emma. It's your turn to carry it forward, to reshape it into something that empowers instead of frightens." Emma swallowed hard, contemplating those words. Could she truly be the torchbearer? Would she have the strength to face the shadows that had lingered over her family for far too long? As her thoughts spiraled, the woman pulled out another small item from the envelope, a faded newspaper clipping, the headline bold and striking. "Local heroine fights against injustice," it read, showcasing her grandmother's fearless resolve in a time where resistance demanded extraordinary courage. This wasn't merely family history, it was an invitation to reclaim her narrative. With fresh determination, Emma gazed at the woman. "I want to know everything, the good, the bad, what she stood for. I won't let her legacy be buried. I'm ready to bridge the past and future." A proud smile broke across the woman's face. "That's the spirit, Emma. But remember, it won't be easy. This path might stir old wounds, but only through confronting these truths can true healing begin. Emma nodded, feeling the stirring of her grandmother's spirit in that very moment. She could trust that fire within her, it was the sentiment of resilience pulsing behind her heartbeat. Dive deep into your grandmother's story, reach out to those who knew her, and keep her memories alive, as she would have wanted, the woman encouraged, her voice ringing with conviction. Days turned into weeks, and Emma committed herself to the journey. She connected with those who had shared the protest trails with her grandmother, each conversation intensifying her understanding of the world they had fought to change together. As Emma pieced together the legacy, she found strength and empowerment, uncovering stories that both inspired and weighed heavily on her heart. With every revelation came a new sense of purpose. She started a local group aimed at community advocacy, encouraging sharing and engagement in issues that mattered. Then, the moment came. Her father reached out for the first time since he left. The air cracked with electricity. Emma took a deep breath. The connection felt fragile yet significant. In their meeting, she could see shadows in his eyes, regret and pain clawing deeply. Emma spoke with a voice that carried the weight of her grandmother's spirit, filled with pride but also the pain of abandonment. "I want to understand," she said, her heart open. "You were scared, weren't you?" He nodded, emotion choking his voice. "I didn't know how to face it, Emma. But I see in you the courage I lacked." That conversation became a turning point, gradually mending the bond frayed by years of separation. Emma realized that reconciliation was also part of the legacy, not just understanding her grandmother's fire but kindling her own warmth through forgiveness. Years passed, and as Emma looked down at her daughter, now a vibrant little girl, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. The shadows of the past no longer loomed. Instead, they stood as a testament to strength and enduring love. Emma smiled, feeling both her grandmother's and her father's presence in her heart. She would teach her daughter, instilling in her the essence of courage, hope, and the importance of standing tall against adversity. Together, they were rewriting the family story, one marked not by darkness and fear, but by resilience and light. And in doing so, they would nurture a beautiful future, a true legacy of love passed down through generations. As Emma cradled her baby, she felt that flicker of fire within blaze brighter than ever. It was a legacy worth celebrating, a journey that had begun with questions but flourished into answers that would echo through time, proving that every story matters. It all hinged on courage to face the past, embrace the present, and mold the future. Emma took a deep breath and smiled, knowing she was ready to dance forward into the world with arms wide open. Now is your moment. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your love for these transformation tales. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this heartwarming ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who absolutely need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to support the channel. Only true fans understand the importance of these actions.